is Gina. Today I'm going to show you how to make this bracelet that I'm calling Snow Angel Bracelet. I had posted my original design, which I've made a few changes, but this is my original. I had posted it on my Facebook page, and someone had told me that it looked like little snow angels, and I took another glance, and it does. It looks like little snow angels. So I am taking her idea and I am calling this the Snow Angel Bracelet. Now, with this, we are going to make separate components and then join them together. The way that you will adjust your length is with this right angle weave. Of course, you could always make another component if you'd like, if you have a very large wrist and you need to change the length. This is exactly a 7.5-inch bracelet, the way I have made it. So if you follow the directions the way I've done it, you're going to get exactly a 7.5-inch bracelet. Let me put this on my wrist. On the wrist. Very pretty. And these are supposed to be just kind of bobbly looking, not perfect. It's supposed to be just strands of beads together. That was the look I was trying to achieve. So you're not going to get perfect little linear strands. That's not the way I designed it. So as you're making it, don't get frustrated if your little strands are not perfect. They're not supposed to be. And then we make a toggle end here. And that's what the clasping looks like. And that's what it looks like. So let's go ahead and get started on this project. Okay, for this project today, you are going to need 3mm bicone crystals. I am using an emerald green Swarovski crystal, and you will need, if you make the same length I do, you'll need 60 of them. Then you're going to need 2 colors of 11/0 seed beads. I'm using Toho rounds. You can try this in delicas. However, I think it's going to be very difficult to sew through to connect your beads. These connections are rather difficult to sew back through the peyote, and you're going to need to several times. I originally designed this with the thought in mind of doing it with delicas, but once I designed it, I liked the way it looked with the round beads. Plus, I knew that it was going to be very difficult. This is what a unit looks like with delicas, and it is so much tighter that I am not sure you can try it. I am not sure that you will be successful. In the corners, I used round 11/0 seed beads because delicas would not work in the corners. So if you do this, I would still use 11/0 rounds in the corners. So, 2 colors of 11/0 seed beads. These are Toho. This is a pearlized cream with a golden lining. This one is the galvanized aluminum silver tone. You will need just a very few, 4 to be exact, 15/0 seed beads, and I'm using it in the galvanized galvanized aluminum, excuse me. You will also need about 54 pearls. So I have this strand right here. Just make sure you have a nice long strand. Depending upon your length, if you make it exactly like I've made it, you will need 54 of these. And that's a 4mm round glass pearl butter color. You will also need a size 12 beading needle. I would not use a 10 for this particular procedure. As you can see, my needle is all bent up because you really need to get through these beads a lot, and a bigger needle is going to be difficult. So use a size 12 beading needle. I am also using 8-pound Nanofil. If you're using Fireline, use 6-pound. You want to be able to get through these beads rather easily, and a smaller diameter of thread is going to help. So 6-pound Fireline or 8-pound Nanofil. And let's go ahead and get started. Okay, to start this project, you're going to thread onto your needle not quite a wingspan of thread. So you're going to stretch one arm out to your side, measure from your fingertips the length of that arm across your chest, and then the length to about your elbow on the other arm when outstretched. And that should be plenty of thread. We are going to create 4 components that look like this. This is just your basic 3D peyote square with crystals in the corner. So we're going to make 4 of them with this count that I'm going to show you now, so that they will be one size. And then we're going to make 1 smaller, and I will show you the count for that one. But this count to start your beads with is going to be a sequence of 7 11-0 seed beads divided by 1 bicone crystal. 4 segments of it. So you're going to pick up 7 11-0 seed beads first, and then a bicone crystal, and then repeat that 3 more times. Start with your 11-0s, end with the crystal. And that is what we will begin with. Once you have done that, we will bring that down to the end of the thread, and we will tie a knot to create a circle. Now we are going to leave a very long thread on each one of these components. So you're not going to cut your thread off, and you're going to have a lot of thread once you're done with your component. I realize that it's a lot of thread that we're putting on to start with. Bring your beads together into a circle and then tie an overhand knot, and just bring the knot down between the beads. Like so. Now, once you have tied your knot, then you want to make sure that it's not so tight that your beads do not move around. You want a little tiny bit of slack. You don't want big portions of thread showing, but you don't want them to be really tight either. Then, and make sure your knot doesn't slip. So tighten your knot while holding onto your beads so that you don't tighten the beads too much. Now, this is where my knot is. I am going to sew through the first crystal and the first 11-0 seed bead, like so. I'm just going to hold onto my circle and pull my thread through. And then I'm going to begin peyote. And I'm going to begin it with my my main color of beads. So that's going to be cream for me. So I'm coming out of this 11-0 seed bead right here. Let's get you a little closer. I'm going to skip over the next one and go into the one after it. Like so. And pull my thread through. And your tail is going to get in the way, so once we go around once, we will cut that off. But try to maintain it for now. Now, as you pull it down, put your thumb and your finger together and kind of guide that bead so that it draws on top of the bead that you skipped. Then, pick up another 11-0 seed bead. Skip the bead next to the one you're coming out of. So I'm coming out here, I'm going to skip this one, and I'm going to go into the one next to it. I'm going to place my thumb and my finger over the beads and gently pull my thread through. This helps guide your bead into place so that it actually sits where you want it to. Then we're going to do the same thing again. We're coming out of this bead, we're going to skip over one and go into the one right in front of the crystal here. Place your thumb and finger together and gently pull the thread through until you get a slight bit of resistance. Now, when you come to the crystal, you're going to get your next color of beads, and you're going to pick up 2 of them. So for me, it is silver. And I'm coming out of this bead right here. I'm going to skip over the top of my crystal and go into the bead on the other side of the crystal, like so. And I'm going to pull these 2 beads over the crystal. And then just turn my piece a little bit and begin peyote again. I'm coming out of this bead here, I'm going to skip this one and go into the one behind it. Put my thumb and finger together and just gently guide that bead into place. And I'm going to continue that until I get to my crystal again. So I'm going to, coming out of this bead, skip this bead, go into the one behind it, like so. And again, pick up a bead, skip the bead next to the one you're coming out of, and go into the bead right in front of the crystal. And pull. Now you're going to pick up 2 of your next color, like so, and skip over the top of the crystal and go into the bead behind the crystal. And pull tight. And then again, start your peyote. Coming out of this bead, skip the one in front of it, go into the one after the one you've skipped. And pull. And again. And we're just going to continue until we get all the way over to the last crystal, and then we will be back. So just continue putting your peyote in, and when you get to the crystal, put 2 beads over the top of the crystal until you finish the entire round. Each crystal will have 2 silver beads over the top of them, or whatever color you're using. Okay, so I've gone all the way around until I'm to my last crystal here that I'm going to put my 2 silver seed beads over the top of. So I'm going to pick up those 2, and then I'm going to go into the bead behind my crystal, and because this is where we started our peyote, this is where we will step up to do the next row also. So let me put my 2 silver beads on here. And now we're coming out of this bead right here. We need to step up into this bead that is sitting up higher than the rest of the beads. So we're just going to go directly into that bead, and that is our step up for the first round. Now we're going to cut off this tail. Let's get it out of the way. And continue peyote around again. So you're going to go back to your main color and begin picking up your beads and putting them between the sticking up beads now. So I'm going from this bead directly into the next sticking up bead. When I get to the space in front of the crystal, I'm going to go ahead and pick up my bead and go into the first silver bead on the corner here. Pop that bead down in, and then I'm going to pick up 2 of my silver beads. I'm going to go from this silver bead that I'm coming out of directly into the one next to it. So I'm going to go directly into this silver bead here. And I'm just going to pull my thread through and pop those down. Sometimes they twist and they don't lay nice there, and you'll just have to arrange them. Like so. You back off just a little bit so I don't get out of camera. Now we're going to continue doing peyote again. So we're going to pick up this 11-0 seed bead. We're coming out of this silver bead right here. We're going to go into the next sticking up 11-0. And just put your fingers over and give it a tug. That will also help straighten these out if they get tangled. I think it was twisted, so if you just put your fingers over it and pull on the thread, you can usually get them to pop down where they're supposed to be. Then we're going to pick up our next 11-0 seed bead and work our way all the way over to these silver beads. So we're just going to go into the sticking up beads, placing a bead in between them. Now when we get to the very last one, we're going to go into the 11-0 seed bead right here and pull. And now, just for the corner, we'll get a little closer. Now we're going to pick up 2 11-0 seed beads, and we are going to do the same thing we did in the last corner. So pick up 2 of your second color, and you're coming out of the silver bead here, the one in the corner, going to go into the one right next to it. I'm going to put my finger over it and just kind of give it a tug. If you hold on to it between your thumb and finger and tug it a little bit, you can get it to go through. Now be careful when you do that or you will break your thread. So just do it gently. Then pick up your next white seed bead or whatever color you're using, your main color. We're coming out of the silver bead and we're going to now travel through the sticking up beads all the way until we get to the corner over here. And we're going to continue putting silver beads in the corner, do this side of peyote, and then when we get over to this last one where we will step up here, we'll come back. So just go ahead and do this portion and your corner, this portion and your corner, and we'll be back. Okay, I am to my last corner and I'm going to show you how you're going to navigate through your step up here. So pick up your 2 silver beads or whatever color you're using, go into the corner and form your corner. Now I am coming out of this silver bead on the bottom here. You can see that I need to put a bead here, but my step up is right here. You can see on a step up, you can see 3 little steps is how it will look. So it'll be 1 step, 2 step, 3 steps. When you have that little curve of 3 steps, you know it is time to do your step up. So you'll pick up a bead and you'll go into the middle step and then you'll go into the higher step. You can do them 1 at a time or 2 at a time. And I think I'm going to have to do mine 1 at a time. So I pick up my bead, go into my middle step, pull my bead through, and then I'm going to go into my top step. And now I am completely finished with that row. All 3 rows are equal. Now we are going to continue moving around and we will do 1 more row of peyote and place a crystal in the corner here. So we're in the middle of this row. After we do this corner, we'll have to travel over here to finish this row. That's okay. We'll do that when we come to it. Pick up an 11-0 seed bead and begin your peyote. I'm coming out of the last one before I get to my silver. I pick up one of my main color, go up into my corner here, and then I will grab a crystal. And I will go from this bead directly into this bead, just like we've been doing all along, and pull my crystal down. Give it a little tug, but be careful with your crystals because you can definitely break your thread tugging them too hard. Just give a nice little tug, making sure there's not too much thread on either side. If you need to, you can adjust your crystal, making sure that the widest part of the crystal through the middle is between the seeds. The seed beads. Then pick up your next main color bead. You're coming out of this corner bead. You're going to go into the first sticking up main color bead. As you put these crystals on, you're going to tangle your thread a lot around them, so make sure that you check that periodically as you're sewing so that you know that you're not tangled. Then continue peyote, putting beads between the sticking up beads. Travel all the way over to your corner again. When you get to the last main color bead, right before your corner, pick up 1 more main color bead, go up into the silver bead, or the corner bead, whatever color you're using, doesn't matter. Pick up your crystal, and then go into the other corner bead right next to the one you're coming out of. It is better if you place your fingers over, once you get that crystal in there, and just kind of tug it a little bit. Be very careful as you do this because these crystals are really sharp and the angle that the thread is at going through them, you will break your thread if you're not careful. There we go. Now let's continue peyote. So we're going to do peyote all the way around, exactly like we've been doing it, putting the crystals on. When we come to where our step up is, we'll come back. So here I am coming out of the silver bead. I'm picking up my cream bead, and I will begin my journey over to my next corner. We will be back as soon as we have completed putting 4 crystals on, and we are right here where we need to step up. Okay, so as you can see, I'm ready to put my last crystal on. So I've got my crystal on my needle, and I'm coming out of the silver bead in the corner. Excuse me. I'm going to go into the silver bead right next to that one, and pull my crystal down. Give it a tiny tug there. And then I am going to pick up my next main color bead and go from this silver bead over to this sticking up bead. Now here is where you can see our little step up, our little 3 stairs. I want to get really close so that you can see what I'm talking about again, because this is the part that confuses most people with peyote. Now you can see I have put in this corner bead, this first sticking up bead I'm coming out of, and you can see it looks like a little staircase right here. 1, 2, 3 beads at a diagonal, kind of stepping up. So what we're going to do is we are going to pick up a bead. We're going to go into the second bead. So this is the first stair, this is the second stair, and this is the top stair. So we're going to go over the first stair with our bead, into the second stair, and the third stair, if you can do them both at the same time. If not, then you can do them one at a time. Then we're going to bring our bead down over that first little step. And now we have a completely equal path of peyote there. Let me back off just a little bit. Now that we have completed this here and we're in the bead where we did our step up, we're going to sew down these 3 beads right here and go into the middle and start working some peyote in the middle. So how I like to do it is I'm coming out of this bead here, I just go directly into the bead right underneath it, like this, and pull my thread through. And then I'm going to go right underneath that one right here. That way we all stay exactly as we have sewn down through. We are all in the same spot. So as I show you your step ups and what to do next, we will be sewing exactly the same path. So now that we have sewn down these 3 beads, we're in this middle bead right here. We are going to begin doing peyote again. So let me get some of my beads out here. And pick up 1 bead and go into the next sticking out bead right next to the one where you're coming out of. So we're going to go just into the raised beads. Okay, so what differs with this part here is we are going to place this next bead over this recessed bead in the corner, but then we're going to go through the crystal here. So we're coming out of this bead here, this one right here. We're going to go pick up a bead, go into the crystal. Now sometimes you have to push your crystal up a little bit, go at it through the top like this, kind of bending your piece back so you can get through it. Pull your bead into place. Now it's going to be at a diagonal and raised a little bit. That's okay, that's what you want. So just leave it like that and move on to the next one. You're going to do the same thing. You're coming out of the crystal, you're going to place your bead over this recessed bead, and you're going to go into the raised bead in the corner here. I'm going to pull my thread through, and that's what that should look like, just a little raised corner. Now we're going to continue sewing until we get to the next corner. So we're going to stick all of our beads into the sticking up, or we're going to pass our needle through the sticking up beads and place a bead in between them. And I just pulled my needle off my thread. So let me fix that. Okay, so let's continue. Pick up another of our main color bead and go into the next raised bead. Now we are at the corner again, so we are going to pick up one of our main color beads and we're going to go into the corner crystal. So like I said before, you kind of push that crystal up and go into the middle of it here. Like so, kind of at an angle. It takes a little finagling to get through the crystals, but it's really not that difficult. And push, or pull, don't push, pull, jeez. And then we're coming out of this crystal here, we're going to pick up a bead and go into the crystal raised over here. Okay, let's continue doing peyote all the way over to the next corner. And you're going to do the same thing when you get to that corner. So continue until you have put your last stitches into your last crystal corner, and we will be back to continue through the step up. So you need to finish this side, the corner, this side, and the corner. Okay. And we'll be back. So I have traveled all the way around, put my first corner bead into my crystal on my last crystal that I need to peyote around. This is the next bead I need to put in, so I'm coming out of my crystal. I'm going to go into this raised bead right here and pull it down. And then here is where we have our 3 little steps. 1, 2, 3. So we're going to pick up a bead. We're going to go into the middle step and the top step. Right there. Don't excuse me. I've had more problem with this little component making them. I've thrown them all over my room, done all kinds of stuff. Anyway, so now we have done our step up there. We are going to start doing peyote all the way over here. So now we're coming out of this bead right there. We are going to pick up, because we're in the middle of the row here, we're going to pick up an 11-0 and put it into the next bead in the corner that's sticking up. So the one that we just put in, we're going to go into it. Now we're going to pick up 2 11-0 seed beads in our second color. And we are going to skip over the top of the crystal and go into the other corner bead we put in as we came through the crystal doing our peyote. And then we will just begin regular peyote all the way across again. So I'm coming out of this bead right here. I am going to go into the next sticking up bead, placing a bead in between them. Get my beads out where I can reach them. And then do the same thing until I get all the way over to the corner. Now I'm going into the corner bead. As I come out of that corner bead, I pick up 2 of my other color beads, my corner beads, and go into the corner bead on the other side of the crystal. So just skip over the top of the crystal and bring these beads down, like so. And then just continue doing that until we have come all the way over to the last crystal, and then we will be back. Okay, so I have just put my last corner silver beads in. I'm coming out of this cream bead right here, and this is where my step up is, right over here. So we need to add 1 more bead because the step up is in the center of this section. So I'm coming out of this bead, I'm going to go into this sticking up bead right here, pulling down a bead in between, perhaps. There we go. And then here's where our 3 little steps are, right here. So I'm going to pick up a bead. I'm going to place it over the bottom step and put my needle into the middle and the top step, like so. And now I have a completely finished row. So now we are going to go around one more time placing silver beads in the corner. And then we will connect our sides together to make it a 3D component. So I'm coming out of this bead here, need to pick up one of my main color beads, go into my silver bead here, and this is where your beads will want to twist as you place them on top. This is always where it wants to happen, and always where it wants to tangle. So just untangle it, pick up 2 of your beads, and from this bead I'm going to kind of pull it up a little bit, and as I put my needle in I'm going to kind of open that bead to the side and then bring my beads down in an effort to keep it from tangling too badly, or not tangling but twisting. And then I'm just going to give it a little bit of a tug as I put my thumb over the top of it. That seems to guide those in pretty well. Otherwise, you will find on this step, when you're doing your second layer of silver beads in the corner, it tends to really kind of be a pain. So that I have found as I've been making these components that helps. So now we're going to travel all the way around again. I want you to go ahead and do all of your peyote all the way around, putting 2 silver beads in each corner. When we've made it back to the point of the step up, which is right here, we will come back. So same thing we've been doing, just continue putting your corners in as you get to them with your silver beads. I don't have a silver bead, I'm showing you a white one, I don't know why. Anyway, continue, we'll be back. Okay, so I just finished my corner right here, and I'm coming out of my silver bead right here. I have a cream bead on my thread, and I'm going to go into this sticking up bead as we've been doing all along, but our step up is right in the very end of this row of peyote here. So we're going to pick up one more bead, go through the next sticking up bead, and now we have the 3 little step beads here. I'll get you closer. Oops, that's way too close. Let's see. Focus, focus, focus. Is it going to focus? Maybe not. Okay, well, anyway. Here's our 3 little beads right here. We're going to pick up one, and then we're going to go through the second step and the high step that's right in front of the silver beads in the corner here. So go through this one, and it looks like I'm only going to be able to do one at a time. So I'm going to go through this one, pull my bead down, and then through this one here. Okay, so we're coming out of this bead right here. We're going to start our corner. So what we need to do is we need to go into this sticking up white bead, the one that's right next to the silver beads on the back side of your piece. So the part with the crystal on it. Go into that very last bead there and pull your thread through. Now squeeze your corner together so that you can help push it together without straining your thread too much. Now you're going to go into the bottom of this bead right here. And what I mean from the bottom is it's towards the inside of your piece. So you want to go through that side of the bead. Give a gentle tug and then go through the crystal. Pull your thread through gently and push the corner together so that your thread doesn't have to pull really tight to pull it together and break on your crystal. Now you're coming out of the crystal, you're going to go down into the next silver bead in the corner. And what I mean by down is towards the center of your piece, like so. Then you're going to go to the back bead, the very first sticking up white bead on the back portion of your piece. So this is the back, this is the front. The piece with the crystal, you want to go into that bead right there and pull. Making sure your thread doesn't catch. And now your corner is put together. Now we're just going to go back and forth into the sticking up beads and sewing this together. So it's basically zipping it up. You can see the teeth of the zipper sticking up. So we're coming out of this bead, we're going to go into this one and pull our thread. Now, I like to kind of push it together so I don't have to pull my thread so tight. So now I'm going to go to the back of my piece and then to the front of my piece in the sticking up beads, and to the back, and then to the front. Give it a tiny tug as you go through so that you can tighten it up. Now we're going to go into the very last front bead here, and then into the very last back bead here. Okay, so now we're coming out of the very last sticking up bead on the back side here, or the side with the crystal on it. We're going to bring our thread around to the front and go underneath this top silver bead closest to where needle and thread are coming out here. Go up through the bottom of that bead, and I mean that by saying that your needle will be facing towards the outside of your piece as you come up through. Then go through the crystal, like so, and squeeze it together as you pull it so that you don't have to stress your thread. And then after you've come out of the crystal, go down into the other silver bead, the other silver bead, and pull your thread through. And then go into the white bead on the back side. So the back side is the side where the crystal was originally on. And pull. And then you'll want to come around to the front and go through the sticking up bead on the front here. Kind of push your corner together and tighten. Now your corner is completely together, and you're just going to sew through and tighten each bead together. So zip it up, basically. Go to the back, to the front, to the back. I keep tangling my fingers in my thread. I tell you, maybe this is why I don't do peyote very often. I don't know. Probably is. Doesn't cooperate with me. Okay. Front bead to the end here, and into the back bead right next to where our crystal and silver beads are. Then I come around to the front and go up through the bottom of the silver bead. Squeeze my piece together, go through the crystal, go through the top of the silver bead and just the silver bead. Squeeze my piece together and pull, and then come to the back side white bead and go through it. Pull my piece together, or push it together, and give it a little tug, and then start zipping up all of the sticking out beads. We're going to continue doing that until we're finished, and when we finished, we'll be back. Okay, so now you can see I have finished stitching it up all the way around, and I'm coming out of this very last bead right here where it ended while I was stitching it up. So let me show you. You should be coming out of this bead right here. Now we're going to go into this bead right beneath the crystal and kind of do it at an angle so you can push your needle alongside that crystal. And then we're going to go through to the front and through the first silver bead down towards the center of your unit here. And then we're going to go up through the next silver bead. If I can find the hole. There it is. Pull your thread down in between there so you can't see it, and then go down into the first bead, the first white bead underneath your crystal here. And that's where you're going to leave your thread. You're going to leave it long, and you're going to leave it coming out of that particular spot right there. And this is tight enough, we don't have to go through and tie knots and all that. It's very secure. So you just want to leave your thread like that, and then you will want to make 3 more the exact same size, exact same process. So, and leaving your thread on each one. As you can see, I have a long thread on each one of these, and you're going to want to make 4 altogether. Now, after you have made your 4, then you're going to make 1 more. You're going to use the exact same process, except for when you set up your needle, and let me set a needle up and I will show you. Okay, so I have set up our next needle. So it's exactly the same process. The only difference is you're going to pick up 5 11-0 seed beads, then your bicone, then 5 11-0s, and so on, until you have 4 segments of 11-0s divided by 3 millimeter bicone crystals. Start with your 11-0s, end with your bicone. And then do the exact same unit that you were doing with the 7 11-0s and bicones. Exactly the same. You will end up with exactly the same unit, just smaller. So go ahead and make a square peyote after you've made your 4 square peyotes with your 7 11-0 seed beads, and we will be back. And this is what the smaller unit looks like once it's finished. This is the one with the 5 seed beads in between the crystals. This is the one with the 7 seed beads in between the crystals. And we're going to lay these out so that you can see exactly how we're going to put them together. Now, we're going to start connecting our units together with the small one, because this is the clasping end. And so we will start with this one. We want to lay the thread so that it is up and out right here. You've sewn through where it's coming out of the first bead here, and this thread is here and it's up and out. This one we're going to lay the same way to where our long piece of thread is coming out of the first bead above the crystal, and it is positioned up and out. We're going to do the same with all of them. So we're going to lay them all out. You don't have to lay them all out right now, but I'm going to show you so that you can see how it's going to work. So this is how I'm going to lay mine out. I'm going to have my 4 large units and my small unit. And this way we can connect with our threads, each one. And then this very last thread here we will use to connect our clasping on the other end. So you can put 3 of them aside. And then we will begin by connecting these 2. You want to park your thread on the second one somewhere over to the side so that it's not in your way and you don't tangle it as you do your connection here. So we're going to connect this small crystal this small unit to this larger unit. And we're going to connect through the same bead that we're coming out of on this unit on the opposite side. So this, of course, the opposite side of the unit. So we're coming out of the top of this first bead. We're going to go into the top side of this bead. So the side opposite the crystal on that bead. We're going to pick up 8 seed beads, and I'm using my main color 11-0s, and pick those up, 8. And we're coming out of this bead from the top here. We're going to go into this bead from the top. So I'm going towards my crystal, and you're going to do this at an angle, because it's a little difficult to get through these beads. So just go at an angle, push it through and pull it through gently. Until it just is a line between the 2 units, like so. And then you're going to pick up an 11 and actually a crystal and a pearl and a crystal. So let's grab a crystal and one of our 4mm pearls and a crystal. Come here, beads. Okay, so now we're coming out of the bottom of this bead. We're going to go into the bottom of the same bead on the opposite unit, right here, like so. Let me get you really close and pull these down. Now, for this particular part, we're going to go ahead and do the other side the same way, just so you have some stability in your units. Then we'll sew back through and just do one complete connection, and then we'll sew through and do the other complete connection. But this adds a little stability so that you can actually get your units to lay nice. So we are coming out of this bead right here. We are going to then sew into this bead here, so right next to it and a little bit in front, sew through that one, and then sew back into the bead that you were in originally, and just do this slow and gently so you don't tangle your threads. And then come through the bottom side or the inside of this silver bead right here. And then come through the silver bead here, and make sure as you come through you pull that thread down tight so it goes between the beads underneath the crystal, and then come through the first white bead under the crystal on the side of your unit again. So the same bead that you were in on this side, you'll be in on this side. And you're going to do the same thing. You're going to pick up 8 11 seed beads. Like so. Let me make sure, yep. And then we're coming out here. We're going to go into the bottom, since we're coming out of the bottom of this bead, and I'm considering the bottom the one that's away from the crystal, the side of the bead that's away from the crystal. And we're going to go into the same side of the bead on the opposite unit here. And just try to do it at an angle. My needle is catching on a thread bridge. There we go. And pull it through. Like so. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, yep. And then we're going to pick up a crystal and a pearl and a crystal, like so. And then we're coming out of the top of this bead here. We're going to go across into the same bead that we just went through with our 8 seed beads and go into the opposite side of it. So go into the top of this bead, like so. And pull this down. And then we will sew down one bead right beneath the bead that we're coming out of on the side. So here's our bead that we're coming out of. This is the bead that goes towards the front. This is the next bead on the side right here. We're going to go into it. Pull your thread through slowly. Make sure that your previous units are tight but not bunchy. And then you're going to pick up 12 seed beads. So I have 12 seed beads, and then I am going to go across across, not across, to the bead, that the same bead that I'm coming out of on this unit, and this unit, and going into the same side that I'm coming out of. So I'm coming out towards the bottom of this bead. I'm going to go in towards the bottom of this bead right here. It's one bead beneath the bead we were working in previously, and just pull through like so. Now you're going to pick up 10 seed beads. And drop them down if you want to. You don't have to drop them down. And then go into, see, we're coming out of the top of this bead now. We're going to go into the top of the bead on the other side that we connected the 12 seed beads to. Just go into it and pull. Now you have to bring this one down and lay it out nice and neat. And then we have to sew down into the next bead beneath the one we're coming out of. So this is a top bead and this is a bottom bead. We're going to go straight down into this bottom one right here and pull these tight. And you should not be able to see your thread even though we're going between the beads on instead of going up and down. This bead should pull forward and cover the thread, so you should be fine. And then we're going to do this one a little bit different. We're going to pick up a seed bead and we're going to pick up 5 pearls. And then another seed bead. We're coming out of the bottom of this bead here. We're going to find the same bead, the side one right underneath the one that we just put our seed beads on, and we're going to go into it from the bottom up. And try to find a nice angle where you can get through well, like so, and pull these beads down. And then you're going to pick up an 11-0 seed bead, and you're going to go back down into the pearl. So you're going to skip this seed bead you put here, go into the pearl, and all 5 of them. Pull your thread through, and this seed bead should pop up right on top of the first seed bead you put in on that side. Now you have to arrange these as you're doing this so that they lay really pretty next to each other, like so. And then pick up an 11-0 seed bead and go into the top of this bead that you started in, right here. And pull that seed bead down. Arrange everything so it looks good, and then sew through this seed bead again and all the pearls. So we're going to go into this seed bead, the bottom one, and all of the pearls again. You can do one at a time, whatever you'd like. I'm just going to do one first, and then I'll go into the rest of them because I want to tighten this little connection here nicely. So I'm going to do that by pulling through one bead first, and then I'll go through the next 4. And then I'll pull my thread through. And then I will go through this bottom seed bead here, and then through the connection bead, and then back through one more time, just to make this nice and secure and position our needle where we want it. This particular one, because of the way we've put the 11-0s here, you have to go through to connect them and secure them. Okay, so I'm back into this side seed bead. I'm going to go into the one I connected right here. Make sure I'm in camera there. There we go. And now I can secure or make sure everything is nice and neat. Arrange it how I want. And then I'm going to sew up this peyote and get over to this side so that I can do the other side of the connection. So I am coming out of this bead here. I'm just going to start following my peyote. I'm going to go into this one here. So I'm coming out here, I'm going here. And then I'm going to go into this one. So I'm just going back and forth through my peyote. And here. Then I'll go up into this one. Can't get through it, so I'm just going to go up through the silver one right here. And then cross over and go down through this silver one. Basically, we're just sewing through so we can get back to the other side again. I'm going to go through the first bead that I connected with this embellishment here. Then I'm going to sew one down beneath it right here. Now I'm in position to do the rest of my embellishment. So we are going to start with our 12 seed beads. So we're going to pick up 12 seed beads and hook over to this side. Darn it. I'm sorry, it's after work in the evening and I'm always a little beat after that, so I apologize. But now we are coming out of this bead here. We're going to go into the same side, which is the bottom side of it, of the bead, towards the crystal, and pull. Straighten them out so they're not all weird looking, and then pick up 10. And this looks kind of strange right now, but after we get all done and we can push them around, they really lay very pretty. And before we completely secure and knot off, we'll just pull through them, pull on them a little bit and make them nice and neat, and they turn out really pretty. Okay, so we're coming out of this bead right here. We're going to pick up our 10 11-ohs. So I have my 10. We're going to come through this bottom bead, or the bottom of this bead here, or the top. Okay, so the opposite side that we connected this one in, we're going to go into. The same side that we're coming out on this one. As you pull this one down into place, you have to kind of push it down because it's going to lay on top of the other beads and you have to push it over. Then we're going to go down one bead, straighten these out, and pick up a seed bead and 5 pearls. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. Drop it down, and then come across into the same bead on this side that you're coming out of on that side and go into the same side. So up towards the inside of your piece. Pull these down. Oh, I made a mistake. I'm going to back out. I have to pick up a seed, an 11-0 seed bead before I do this and come through. Okay, so if you make a mistake, just back out and pick up an 11-0. So what we are picking up onto our needle is an 11-0, 5 pearls, and an 11-0, and then we're going to go into the opposite bead on the same side. We're coming out of the bead on the opposite unit, like so. Then we're going to pick up another 11-0 seed bead and go into the pearls, and I'm just going to go through 3. Pull this down so that this seed bead lies on top of that seed bead. Go through the other 2 pearls and then pick up a seed bead. Don't go through the 11-0 here. Just go through the pearls, pick up an 11-0, and then you have to go into the opposite side from which your thread is coming out. So it's coming out here. I'm going to go into my connecting bead on the opposite side and pull, like so. And now I am going to sew back through this entire connection here. So I will go through this 11-0 and a seed bead, or a seed bead, a pearl, and then I'm going to sew through all of my pearls. Gently and slowly. Get this thread out of the way. Then come into the 11-0 on this side, into the connection bead here, into the 11-0, and back through a pearl, and back through all the beads, go through, and I'm just going to sew through one more time just to make sure I've got an entire circle doubled in this side here. So I'm just going to go back through my pearls one more time. Seems like a lot of sewing, but you'll be glad you did it when your piece doesn't fall apart. So now come through this 11-0 seed bead again, and then we're going to grab a thread bridge and we're going to tie this thread off. So I'm going to grab a thread bridge right here between the 11-0 I'm coming out of and the 11-0 before the pearls, and I'm just going to make a loop, pull my thread through, tie a knot, and then I'm going to sew through some of my peyote. So let me turn the piece the proper direction. I'm going to go back into this bead that I'm connected to because my knot is right here. I'm going to go back into here, then I'm just going to sew through a few stitches down and up when you're going through your main body. You don't want to go straight across like we did on these because there's nothing hiding the thread now. Here, there's a bunch of beads hiding the thread, so you can go straight into a straight stitch underneath. But here, you have to follow your peyote. You have to go down, up, down, up. And then I'm going to cut my thread off. Okay, find where I just cut that. Cut that a little shorter. Then you can use your thread zapper or you can use a lighter and very carefully burn this down because you don't want to get any of your other threads, like so. Now you have your first connection. And like I said, you can go through and kind of play with them and arrange them. They're supposed to be kind of messy and bobbly looking. They're not supposed to be perfect. So if they don't lay absolutely perfect, don't worry about it too much. They're not supposed to. They're just supposed to be kind of strung in there. And then we now have one unit connected. This is our clasping. We have this unit connected. We are going to take our next unit, and we can turn this over, arrange it so this thread is up towards the top like it was before, just so that if you need to back up the video and watch how to connect, you can watch exactly how we did it the first time. So this thread should be up here, this thread up here, and then you begin connecting your next unit exactly like we did this one. I'm not going to do it again because this video will be incredibly long, and we still need to come back and make our clasp and connect that. So go ahead and connect this unit to this unit. So through exactly like I showed you, putting the connection the exact same way, and then do your next one and the one after that. And then once you have all four of your bigger units connected, exactly how I showed you to connect this unit, we will be back and we will make our toggle end, and we will connect it. So continue and we'll be back soon. Okay, as you can see, I have connected all of my components now, and I have my last large component with my thread in the position as we have had it all along. And this thread we will use to connect the end of our toggle, which will slide through the small component that we connected first. So at this point, we're just going to put this aside, and we now have to create the end of the toggle. So you're going to put on your needle about half a wingspan of thread, and then pick up a different bead. I'm using an 8/0 in the silver tone, and I'm just going to bring it to the end of my thread to create a stop bead. You don't have to leave a long length of thread behind the stop bead, just enough to hold on to, and then go through the bead that you just put on and create your stop. And then you will pick up 14 seed beads onto your needle, like so. Once you have your 14 seed beads, you will drop them down to your stop, and then hold on to the last two beads, holding more onto the second bead between your fingers. Pick up another bead, and then skip the first bead and go through the second bead that you're holding tightly to, and bring this down by pulling your thread through. And as you do that, you should pull that bead on top of the first bead. So let me bring you closer so you can see. And now we're just going to begin peyote. So let me grab some of my beads, and we're just going to skip the next bead. We're coming out of this bead right here. We're going to skip the next bead and go into the bead after it. Let me position my hands to where I can actually do this. Starting peyote is the most difficult part. I'll pull this bead down on top of the bead I skipped, and then just continue all the way to the end, doing the same thing. Skip the next bead, you're coming out of this bead, skip this bead, go into the next bead, and pull that bead down on top of the bead you skipped, and just continue all the way down the length of your 14 beads. Once you get closer to the end, it gets easier. Now I'm all the way to the end, and I'll just turn around and start putting beads through the sticking up beads. So I'm coming out of the end bead, I'm going to go into this sticking up bead and work my way all the way to the end. And I'm assuming most people by this point know the peyote because we've been doing it all along. So I'm not going to get really detailed, but just continue trying not to twist your thread. And continue. When you get to the end, turn around and come back up until you have something that looks like this. Turn it around and show you what I have. So I still have my stop bead on. I will take it off at this point. If you notice, I have 4 beads on the end of each of my ends of the peyote patch I've created here. If you count it from the area where the stop bead was in a diagonal, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You will see I have 7 rows. But the easiest way to identify is that you will have 4 beads on either end. And that is the length that you want to create. Once you have done that, then we're just going to kind of bend it in half and begin putting these beads together. So I am going to cross over from this bead into this one here, the very end of my 4 beads on the end here. And I'm going to begin sewing the sticking up beads together. So I'm going to cross over and go into this one, and then cross over again and go into this one. If you'd like, you can do them, 2 beads at a time, but I'm just going to do one so as not to confuse anyone. So then into this sticking up bead, cross over, go into this sticking up bead, and cross over again, and just continue the length of this. I'll give it, sorry about that, I'll give it a little tug as I come through each bead so that I can tighten my piece together. Just go slow and carefully. And connect them all together. When we get to the end, we'll be back. Okay, so as you can see, I've connected them all together. I'm coming out the very end bead where my tail is. I'm going to go into the bead next to it, and I'm just going to tighten this together and secure it. So I've gone down into this one, I'm going to come back into this one, and then I'm going to turn and go into the next one, down into it, here, and then back up into the one where my tail is. And then I'm going to cut this tail off. Now, we're just going to make a little decorative end, but first I want to tie a little knot here. So I'm going to grab a hold of a thread bridge between the 2 beads here, and I'm just going to tie a knot. And now I'm going to go down into this bead, up into this bead, and this is what you should have. 4 little beads on top secured together. Then you're going to pick up a 15-0 seed bead and a crystal and a 15-0. and you're going to go directly into the bead next to the bead you're coming out of, and it doesn't matter which one. I'm going to go this way, here, right next to the bead I'm coming out of. Go down into this one, pull it up to where your crystal sits on top of your 15-0 seed beads, and then go into the next bead. So you're coming out of this one, go up into this one. Pick up a 15-0 and go into the crystal. And then pick up a 15-0 and go down into this bead that remains. So you have 4 beads on top. You have one that doesn't have anything in it. Go down into that one. Pull it tight so that your end is pretty. And then we're going to sew down to the other end and do the same thing. So I'm coming out of this bead here. I'm just going to follow my peyote. So I'm going to go into the bead that's down below that one and over a row. And I'm just going to sew all the way down, going into the bead above, then the bead below, then the bead above, just staying with my peyote pattern here, with my thread path. You have to go at an angle to get your needle through. And then don't wrap your thread around the thing like I just did, because then you have to go through all this. There we go. And now I will continue sewing down. You can do 2 beads at a time if you'd like. And just work your way all the way down to the end. When we get to the end, we'll be back. Okay, so now I have sewn all the way to the end, and I'm coming out of one of my end beads, and we're going to do the same thing again. Pick up a 15-0 and a crystal and a 15-0 seed bead, and you're coming out of this one. Let's go into the one right next to it. Make sure your crystal is arranged nicely on top. Turn your piece. Go into the bead next to the one you're coming out of. Bring your thread up through that, and then pick up a 15-0, go through the crystal. And again, pick up a 15-0 and go through the crystal, or go go through the seed bead that remains. Like so. Now, right here, I'm going to tie a little knot just to keep my embellishment. So I'm going to go underneath the thread bridge, and I'm going to tie a knot and tighten my embellishment to make sure it doesn't move around. Okay, so now we are coming out of this bead after putting on this 15-0 seed bead and tying our knot. We are going to sew down somewhere in the center here to put on a connection to connect to our bracelet. So I'm going to go through this bead here, then I'm going to go up and go through this one, so I'm following my peyote, and then down through this one, and then through this one, make sure your thread doesn't wrap around your piece, and then I'm in this one here. And this is about central where I want to be. So I am going to then pick up an 11-0 of my main color, an 11-0 of my silver color, and an 11-0 of my main color. I'm coming out of this bead right here. I am going to go into this bead here. So I'm going to skip a bead in this row, so I've got 2 on either side. Then I've got one that's straight. I'm going to skip over that straight one, and then I'm going to go into the next straight one. So straight across, skip this one, and then go into this one. Now let's see how central I am. That's pretty central. Just kind of eyeball it. I'm a little bit further down than maybe I should be, but it's not too bad. Now I'm going to sew into this bead here. So I'm going across from here to here. And then I'm going to cross over into this one. I'm just sewing back over to where I can get through this and sew through it one more time. So just follow your peyote and sew over through your peyote until you can turn your needle around and come back through. So here I'm next to this bead right here. So I'm going to go into this one here. I'm positioning my needle so I'm in a bead next to the one that I attached to. So I'm in this bead right next to the one I attached to. I'm going to go into the one I attached to now because I can draw my thread over without it showing and bring it up through my attachment to secure it, like so. Sew through those beads. Come back through the bead you connected to. And then we'll just sew up the peyote a little ways and tie off. If you don't like where I attach, just attach where you want to. I'm just showing you basically where you need to be, somewhere central. Like I said, I'm off to the side a little bit, but it's an even count. It's not an odd count, so there is no dead center. Now I am just going to tie a knot here on this thread bridge between this 15-0 and the 11-0. Sew back down a couple of beads here and cut my thread off. I hope I'm staying in camera. So I'm just going to cut it off here. Leave it a little bit of a tag and burn that down so that it creates a little blob, and that will make another stop for me. Now this isn't going to be perfectly straight because we're not using delicas, but it should look something like this. And then just set that aside. Okay, so now grab your bracelet and put the needle on the remaining thread on the large unit here, coming out of the top bead here, where we have been coming out on all of the units previously. And now you are going to pick up 5 11-0 seed beads. And then you're going to grab a 4mm pearl. Drop it down, and then pick up 5 11-0 seed beads. Then you're going to go into the same bead on the same side as you're coming out of on the other side of the crystal, right here. So go up through that bead, having your needle coming towards the crystal here. And this is kind of difficult to navigate, so go at an angle and bring that through and draw this down. Now you're coming out of the inside of that bead here, so on the side of the crystal. You're going to do the same thing again. You're going to pick up 5 11-0 seed beads. and then you're going to go up through the pearl. Then you're going to pick up 5 11-0 seed beads again. And you're going to go into the opposite side of the bead that you started in at an angle. Try to navigate this through. Pull your thread through. And then you're going to travel back up the first set of 5 11-0 seed beads you put on until you come into your pearl. Like so. Now, we're going to make a right angle weave unit right here. So, this is where you're also going to figure out the length of your bracelet. Now, you could, of course, do another unit if you had a very large wrist, but this ends up to be about 7.5 inches anyway, about 7 inches. We'll measure it to make sure. But if you need to for it to be 7 inches, I'm going to put 2 units of right angle weave. If you need to adjust that, if you need it smaller, you can just put 1 unit of right angle weave and continue connecting the way that I connect with 1 unit of right angle weave. If you need a little bit more length, like I do, you will put 2 units or perhaps 3. So this is how you're going to judge your length. Put it around your wrist at this point right now and see if you need more length or less length. Now, we're coming out of this bead right here. We're going to pick up 3 pearls. And we're going to go into the opposite side of the pearl we're coming out of without getting any of the 11-0 seed beads. Just come through the pearl. Then I want you to secure that by sewing back through that again. Excuse me. And once you've come through your connecting pearl, you are going to pick up 2 11-0 seed beads. Is that how I did it? I'm looking at my original design, excuse me. And then a bicone crystal and 2 11-0 seed beads, and we're going to embellish this unit so it blends in and it's pretty. So drop these down here, and then we're going to go into the opposite side of the opposite pearl here. Then you're going to pick up 2 11-0 seed beads, go into the crystal, and then 2 11-0 seed beads, go into the pearl that you started in, right here. And then just pull this all down tight and make it look pretty, like so. Now, we need to continue making a connection so it kind of fills in like these are. So we're going to go up into this pearl here, then into this one, and then into this one. And once you're coming out of this one, you're going to pick up 9 11-0 seed beads. Like so. Now, you're going to go down into the bead right underneath the bead in a straight line, right underneath the bead that you connected these little strands of seed beads to. And we're going to come from the outside of the unit in. So your needle will be directed towards this crystal here. Go in a diagonal, and then pick up 9 more 11-0 seed beads. And come up through your purl. And pull that tight. Just kind of arrange them so they're just supposed to be kind of poofy and just fluffy looking. Don't worry about them laying just perfect. They're not going to. And then we're going to go through this purl on the top of our right angle weave unit right here. Then down into the side purl, and we're going to do exactly the same thing again. You're going to pick up 9 11-0 seed beads, go down into the bead right underneath the one that you attached these two strands to. Again, same way we did on the other side. Go through at an angle the best you can without trying to go through the other seed beads. And it can be a bit of a struggle, as you can see, so I am going to try to go at this diagonal here, see if I can get through better. Like so. Pick up 9 more 11-0 seed beads, one, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm coming out of this bead here, I'm going to go up through this purl here. I'm just turning it over so I can kind of lay these beads underneath, like so. That's what you should have. Now sew up into the top bead in your right angle weave unit. Arrange everything so it looks pretty. Make sure you like the way things are. And then pick up 3 pearls. And make another unit of right angle weave. Sew through it again. I'm just turning mine over so that I can see the beads a little bit better. And just sewing through all of them. Now that I'm coming out of my connecting bead, I'm going to put my embellishment on again. 2 11-0 seed beads, a bicone crystal, 2 11-0 seed beads. I'm going to cross my thread over, go into the opposite bead on the opposite side from which I'm coming out of this bead. So here. Pull those beads over the top. Pick up 2 11-0 seed beads. Go through the crystal. And then pick up 2 11-0 seed beads and go back into your connecting purl. If you need to, you can turn your piece over. You can see that purl a little bit better from the back. Make sure that your 11-0s draw up properly, like so. And then we are just going to sew up to the top bead in our connection here. Now, like I said, you can do 3 units here if you just need a little bit more length, or you can just do the 1 unit. If you've only done the 1 unit, then you are going to do exactly the same thing I'm going to do now to connect the toggle through this top bead instead of through this one. Now we're going to grab the toggle that we created and pick up 2 11-0 seed beads. You are then going to sew through the silver seed bead here, or your most central seed bead on your connection you created. And then again, pick up 2 11-0 seed beads. Go back through the purl and pull tight. Now we're going to sew through this several times just to make sure that it's nice and secure. So go up through the 2 11-0s here into the connecting bead, sorry guys, I'm trying to hurry because I know this is a really long video, and the more I try to hurry, the more I can't sew worth a darn, so I'm just not going to worry about it. It's going to be a long video. It truly is. But there is a lot of steps, and if I just didn't show you the steps, you wouldn't be too happy with me, so there we go. Now I'm going to sew back through that again, and then I may sew back through this connection too. It just depends on how secure you feel that is. Looks like I have a thread there. Nope, that's just a shine on the bead. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to sew up one more time into my connecting bead here, and then I'm also going to go into the 11-0 off to the side here. Then I'm going to sew through my peyote here, you don't have to sew through the exact same beads I am. I'm just trying to find a path to where I can get back through the peyote without my thread showing. So I'm just going to go here and then into here. Because this is going to get a lot of tugging on it to put the bracelet on and off, I just want to make sure I have a nice secure connection before I knot off. So I'm just getting back to this bead, so I'm right next to the bead that I can sew through to get back through my connection. Right here. So just find any path that you can hide your thread, sewing up and down through the peyote until you can get back into that connecting bead and sew through that connection in its entirety, all 3 beads, like so. Okay, one at a time. And then I'm going to go on this thread bridge right here between the beads, hope I've been in camera, and tie a knot, then through this bead here, and I'll just sew up through my peyote until I get to the end bead, and I will cut my thread off, burn down my tail, or what's left of my tag here, so I will cut. Bring this down. And by George, we finally got a bracelet. So let me back off and show you what it looks like, then I'll show you what it looks like on my wrist. wrong way. There we go. And that is what the bracelet looks like. It's really quite pretty. Now, you can just grab it. So, this is what it looks like. And I will measure it for you so you can see exactly how long it is, so you can judge how you want to make your units. If I made another big unit and attached it, it would have been too long. Of course, you could make another smaller unit, the 5 unit, and attach it also. It doesn't matter as long as you make your attachment on the end the same way I did, so you can put your toggle on. It doesn't matter. But you're going to have to finagle your length a little bit with this. I decided I would just do units of right angle weave to gather the little bit of extra length I needed. But this is what the clasping looks like here. And the main body of the bracelet here. And let me take this off and I will measure it for you. As you can see, if I measure halfway through the toggle end here, the smaller unit, I just put it where the crystal is on the very end here. It is 7.5 inches. So it does take up a little room on the wrist. So if you have, I have a 6.5 inch wrist, 7.5 fits just fine. Gives me a little bit of movement and works really well to where I can actually clasp and unclasp. If it's too tight, then of course, even though it goes around your wrist, you're not going to be able to use your toggle very well. It's going to be difficult to navigate. So that is a reference on length, and I hope you make one, and I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. Though it was long, I think that it was necessary. Have a good day. Bye-bye.